Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I have a very special guest here, longtime comedian friend of mine, who's also going to give us, we're going to walk through a cryptocurrency 101 lesson with my friend Rosie Tran. Rosie, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm trying to stay sane in this quarantine.
Why? What could possibly be challenging about this? What? I don't get it. Is there?
The collapse of the entire world.
Oh, just yeah. I don't know what's stressful about watching America collapse into itself and everything's going away. What would be stressful about that? Well, speaking of the collapse of things like fiat currency, I'm beginning to learn more about cryptocurrency. Obviously, I talk to my audience a lot about Rockfin. Is it one of the platforms that the show is on? It's a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. They pay all the content creators in Ray tokens. It's a token that they mine. And so we're all becoming part owners of it through that. And then I've started to get more familiar with converting some of that to Bitcoin. And then, of course, you can convert it to cash. I've done a little bit of that. So, but I'm new to the crypto space. I'm very new to it. And
I'm really, really shocked when you called me actually before the podcast to talk about that, because I feel like you would be super into cryptocurrency because of what it represents and what it means for the financial institution. So I'm definitely happy to educate some of your audience so they can get pro crypto as well.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's one of those things I've heard so many people talk about it. And when I started using Rockfin a year ago, I was like, yeah, okay, I kind of get it. I mean, I learned about MMT 2 years ago, which was great. And I've been educating myself and then educating my audience on that. And some of my audience, I'm sure, is very up to speed on crypto, but many of them probably are not. And they should be up to speed on it because the
because the Fed is destroying our lives.
Yeah, that's one way to be. Yeah, they're just printing money and just like propping up Wall Street, and so we're not even in the thick of how bad this economy is going to get. And so I think crypto is now more than ever something we should all be aware of. So why don't you just give all of us kind of a basic, like, what is crypto and kind of how it started? Basically, some of that phone conversation you and I had a couple weeks ago.
Sure. Well, before I get into that, I actually want to talk about the Fed because some people really don't understand why the Fed does what it does or anything about our financial system. Unfortunately, financial education is not taught in school, and that's done on purpose, Graham.
Yeah.
And so that is done to keep the class system in our country, unfortunately. And so a couple important dates. This may sound really boring, but I swear it's important. 1913, when the Fed was created, was before that, the United States actually printed their own currency before they had a centralized bank. And then another really important date was in the 70s when Nixon switched us over to the gold standard.
Switched us off of the gold standard.
Yeah, off of the gold standard. You're correct. So before, a dollar was backed by a piece of gold. And so that's what gave the money value. And after that, Nixon took us off the gold standard. We became based on the full faith of the U.S. government and the petrodollar. So a little bit more dangerous and not a steady currency. So that's kind of the background. We also have an inflationary policy in the United States where we're very pro-inflation. So for those of you who don't know, inflation kind of exacerbates income inequality but by making things more expensive. So I'm sure, Graham, I'm not sure if you're still in Santa Monica, California.
Yes.
So, about 56 years ago, you could buy a beautiful home on the beach in Santa Monica for about $30,000 to $50,000. And what is the cost of the house now?
Oh boy, well, it's hard to say now with what the quarantine has done to the real estate market, but basically, like a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath condo was in the neighborhood of about $1.3 million, and that's 4 blocks. I'm talking about the condo that I had that Obama let the bank steal from me. So I'm using that as a as a reference point. But now, I mean, you want to live on the beach, like if you have like a condo on the beach, like I know some people. A friend of mine is in a really he bought in the 80s. He bought some condo 2-bedroom, 2-bath on the beach, and now it's in the $2.5 million range. Like, it's completely unaffordable.
So $2.5 million, not $30,000 to $50,000 range at all.
No, a couple more zeros from there. Yes,
a couple more zeros. So that sounds awful, but in that time, real wages haven't increased with that inflation. So you can see that inflationary policy that the Fed puts into effect just exacerbates income inequality, right?
Wait a minute, isn't minimum wage $150 an hour?
No, it's not.
Oh.
The zeros haven't been added on.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not kept up with inflation. So the prices of homes are inflating, the prices of real goods are inflating, the prices of college is inflating. And part of this is due to different corrupt reasons, but the majority of it is because of the Fed's inflationary policy. Mm-hmm. And so that basically means that we print more money and that devalues the money. And so this will make sense to crypto later. So about 10, 11 years ago, and
I want to tell you, hold on real quick. I wanted to, just to my audience who watches my show a lot, and I have a whole MMT playlist, and maybe I'll even start a crypto playlist. But that's this very much ties in, because when I talk about MMT on this show, when people say, how are we going to pay for Medicare for all? It's like, well, the same way we just pay for wars. The Fed just prints the money and it's just paid for. So it's like, we could pay for all of these nice things if we wanted to, the way we do this inflationary. We could
with this inflationary money. But the problem with the inflationary policy is that I wish we were using the money that we print for UBI, Universal mm-hmm. Basic Income, or Medicare for all. Mm-hmm. But instead what we do is we print that money and it props up different parts of the economy, like investments, speculative investments, like I said, the cost of housing, the cost of other things. And in that time, we're not able to also pay down our deficit, our debt, because right. the debt is now also ballooning due to increased borrowing. And so we have increased debt, we're printing money, but we can't keep up with all the debt that we're accumulating as a country. So the books are very uneven. So I would love UBI, I would love Medicare for all, but that would also include more printing. And so the problem is that this issue needs to be fixed now, and no president is willing to take it on. Barack Obama wasn't willing to take it on. Donald Trump definitely isn't willing to take it on. And the reason that they're not willing to take it on is because we're in such a mess, Graham, that by the time they are done fixing it, it's going to be another presidency and they're not going to get any credit for it. So instead of helping the greater good, they are thinking about their next 4 years. So it's going to take a concerted effort from both sides, the right, the left, and independents, and also a president that is really visionary and willing to take on the establishment, and also willing to not get credit for all the hard work. And I'm not sure if someone like that exists.
Not in professional politics, not out of the two parties. The only people that exist in the two parties are degenerates and Epstein pals. But other than that, that's a whole nother subject. But
yeah, that's a whole nother subject. So I just wanted to touch on the Fed and why crypto is so important, because a lot of times when I would talk about crypto in the past, I could tell immediately that a lot of people that were attacking me do not really understand our current monetary policy, because mm-hmm. they would say, well, crypto's backed by nothing, so I'm going to stick with good old USD. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on Twitter, 140 characters. I don't have time for an economics lesson here. But essentially, our dollar could be worthless at any moment. And if you don't, believe me, just look at the world's economy. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela had a dollar, or a currency, that was pegged to petroleum, the petrodollar. And right now their currency is absolutely reeling, and the inflation is out of control. They're having a huge currency crisis right now. So what I'm talking about is not a conspiracy theory. It's not some crazy, left wing or right wing out of the box weird policy. It's actually happening right now in the world, and it's happening in Venezuela, and happens a little bit in Turkey. So this is something that is real, it's looming, and it's really scary.
Yeah, and a lot of that, we're sanctioning Venezuela because they, going back to Chavez, won't give us their oil, so now we make them bad guys. If they gave us their oil, they could do whatever the hell they wanted. Like Saudi Arabia, they can chop up journalists and put them in a garden, and and we're okay with it. So you're right. So much as this is tied to the petrodollar, and people that think that the crypto is backed by nothing and the dollar is
The dollar is actually backed by absolutely nothing. It's really scary. And I've actually was really scared in 2017, before I get into what actually crypto is. In 2017, there was a huge crypto rally where the price of Bitcoin almost went to 20,000. And a lot of news outlets started following crypto and talking about it. And I was horrified, as someone who's been in the crypto space since the very beginning, to see a lot of news journalists misrepresenting crypto, talking about it in a very sensationalized way. The mainstream media kind of just very uneducated. And it's really scary because there's a lot of old white men who don't know anything about technology who are looking to regulate cryptocurrency in Washington. And so I'm a little bit scared about that, Graham, because, you know, even the Supreme Court justices, like I love RBG and some of the justices on there, but a lot of them don't even know how to use technology. They're in their 80s and older. And so they're going to be making decisions on Supreme Court cases that involve cryptocurrency very soon. In fact, there's some on the docket, and they don't really understand what it is or know what it is. So it's a really scary time for a technology that I think is going to revolutionize the world.
Yep. All right, so let's get into what
So let's talk about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. About 10 or 11 years ago, an anonymous programmer called Satoshi Nakamoto, Nakamoto, I don't know, I messed it up, I think, created a white paper in which he or she, we don't know who it is, created a algorithm for a digital decentralized currency. Now, that's just a really fancy word to say that it's money that's digital. It's not a physical currency like the USD. And before I get into that, and again, a lot of crypto critics are like, well, it's not real because it's digital. And that's actually not true, Graham, because about 80% of our current money supply is not real. So people Venmo each other, they PayPal each other, they send money via ACH, via wire. And all of that is, you know, the banks don't send a suitcase of $1 million from one bank to another. They just digitally upgrade their ledger, their financial ledger. So most money is actually digital already. And decentralized, that's just a fancy word that means that there's no one central entity controlling it. So, for example, a central entity would be the Bank of China or the Federal Reserve of the United States. So decentralized just means that it's a world currency and there's no one entity that polices it or controls it. And that's actually the allure of cryptocurrency, is that it cannot be corrupted by a single entity. And that's what's going on right now with the Fed. The Fed is, as you mentioned, we're putting sanctions on Venezuela, we're overprinting money. And so because that currency is centralized with one power, a lot of corruption can occur. Whereas the decentralization of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency means everyone is an owner. So it's kind of like a co-op for money. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And just to give the audience here, what Rosie is talking about is other subjects that I've talked about at great length, which is like China, America, Australia are what's called monetary sovereigns, meaning we print our own currency. And so I've talked about this a lot. When China went off the petrodollar and started using the petro yuan, that's when, China is our evil enemy. And when they're trading with Russia, I did this happened March 13th, right when the quarantine started here in the States. They brokered a deal between Russia, China, and about a half a dozen Central Asian countries who used to trade like goods, physical goods. They used to buy and sell them, like Kazakhstan would sell stuff to China or, to India, whatever. These countries would trade using the US dollar. Now they got rid of the US dollar and they're using their own currency. So that's another reason why
we allegedly hate China so much,
right? Well, yeah, because it's a coronavirus is from China, so we have to blame them for everything because they're actually crushing us economically. So that's, to my audience, I want you to know it's something I've talked about a lot on this show, and that's why I wanted to bring Rosie on here to tie crypto into all of this. So I'm sorry.
And also, there's a lot of scary things that central governments can do with your currency. I don't know if you remember this, Graham, or if you talked about it on your show. I am a fan of Political Vigilante, but I haven't seen every episode.
It's all right. There's a lot of them.
Last year, I believe, it was either last year or the year before that, the Indian government took a lot of small denominations out of their currency, and millions of super poor people lost their life savings. I'm not sure if you cover that story.
No, I did not. I was not aware of that.
So I will look it up. I think it was denominations under 10 rupees. Mm-hmm. So they asked I can send you a news story on it, but they asked people to turn them in for larger denominations. And if you didn't turn your money in within a certain amount of time, then it was considered void. So the Indian government just decided to do this out of left field.
Wow.
They gave the Indian people very, very little basically warning. And a lot of people in India live in the countryside. They're impoverished. They have their life savings. They have no access to banking. They have their life savings, you know, in like a box or under a mattress. And so they weren't able to get into the large cities in time to trade those denominations in. And so a lot of people lost a lot of money and the majority of their life savings. And of course, this doesn't affect the super wealthy in India who are already part of the mainstream banking system. This only affects super poor people who deal in a lot of cash or who, you know, a lot of street vendors, farmers, things like that. So it's not completely unheard of. And this is happening, like I said, just within a couple of years ago. So it's kind of scary.
Yeah. And as we're sitting here, you know, the CARES Act just put $4.25 trillion into CEOs in Wall Street, basically, while Americans got $1,200 and good luck, you know. And
let me just say that not only that, but I know people that still haven't gotten their refunds or checks from the IRS. Yep. I am definitely, you know, I'm not a multi-millionaire or anything like that. I'm a comfortable person, but I didn't get my refund for about 3 months, the $1,200. So luckily I had savings, but if I didn't, I would have been screwed. So it's really, really scary how they're treating the average person.
Yeah. And all these evictions are going to start because they said you don't have to pay your rent, you know, you can't get evicted for 90 days, but they didn't pay anybody's rent. They didn't rent freeze. They didn't give land property owners and apartment owners and condo owners. They didn't give them money to say, oh, you don't have to pay like other countries have done. They just said, good luck, you know, and there's going to be probably in the neighborhood of 28 million evictions coming up. And it's just like, this just shows you, like you're talking about, the government can just do what they want. And
they really can do what they want. And they really are not beholden to you. They're beholden to the lobbyists that give them money. They're beholden to the ultra wealthy. Unfortunately, the average person, poor person, doesn't vote. And this is another reason I think it's really, really important for people to understand the monetary system, understand cryptocurrency, and just understand finance in general. Because one of the ways that the government and the system as a whole keeps people apolitical and politically inactive is by keeping you on that rat race wheel. If you're so stressed that you can't pay your next bills, you really don't care about Biden or Trump. You're trying to put food on the table for yourself and your family. And so when you have a little money put away, when you're not so stressed, and again, studies have shown when you're financially stressed, you make more poor decisions, you're less politically active, and that's where your power is. So by keeping people on this kind of hamster wheel of poverty, people are not able to be politically active, and that's a really scary thing.
Yeah. So then, okay, so which is another reason to get more knowledgeable about crypto. So you said it was started by this anonymous person.
So we don't know if Satoshi is actually a person, a male or female, or a group.
Right.
The theory is that it is a group of programmers that just wanted a better currency, world currency for the world. So again, I mentioned it's decentralized. One of the most important things about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is that it's immediate. So so if you want to send money, for example, to your cousin in Vietnam or my cousin in Vietnam, right now, there's no means to do it. You know, there's PayPal isn't effective. Some people don't have internet. Sometimes you have to go to like a Western Union and they charge exorbitant fees, or a payday lender type contact because there's no local bank. And so Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are immediately. They're very cheap to send because they send over the network. And they're very, very secure. There was a big hack today on Twitter, and people keep calling it the Bitcoin hack. But Bitcoin actually wasn't hacked. Twitter was hacked. And Bitcoin is so safe, and all of these cryptocurrencies are so safe because they have very complex algorithms that you have to solve in order to send the money, get the money, and you have a private key, which is your personal identity to get your money. And it's so safe, in fact, that if I printed my private key, or if I printed my Bitcoin address, on a billboard, nobody could steal my money unless they had my private key. It's an authentication system.
Right.
And so It's actually so secure that if you yourself lose your private key, there's no way for you to get that money. And that's happened to me. I actually lost a couple $100 because I lost the private key to a wallet, and I paid multiple black hat and white hat hackers online, and I was not able to get that money out. So it's really, really, really secure. And so that's another awesome thing about it, the decentralized aspect of it. And also, when it first came out, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's for crime, it's for criminals, it's on the black market. And actually, the majority of black market transactions happen in cash because it's traceless, and you can't really follow the trail for cash. And that's another secure thing about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is that there's a public ledger where all the transactions are recorded. And so law enforcement and the FBI have actually been starting to learn about cryptocurrency and using it to catch people that are doing illegal crimes using cryptocurrency, because they can follow the money trail. So it's actually more secure, it's safer, and harder for people to do illicit crimes using cryptocurrency.
Okay, so then what do you tell? How would you were telling me, and there's these crypto wallets. I just ordered one, this Treasure one online, which because I talked to somebody at Rockfin. They were helping me convert some of their crypto into Bitcoin, and I have this wallet or whatever, and now I'm getting a digital one that's going to be even more safer and more secure. So tell somebody who's like watching this, who's kind of brand new, what do I do? Where do I go? How would I do this? And also, I just want the audience to know that cryptocurrency, when we say crypto, and people just think crypto and Bitcoin are the same thing. So Bitcoin is just a currency, right? Just like there's the Japanese yen and whatever else.
So cryptocurrency refers to all digital currencies. So as you mentioned, yes, an equivalent of the yen, an equivalent of the dollar. There's different types of coins, and Bitcoin is a specific coin. Bitcoin is known as kind of like the gold standard. It was the first coin. It's the most expensive coin. Before I get into that, Graham, do you mind if I talk about a few reasons why I'm so pro crypto, and I think it's really good for a lot of the things we talked about with corruption? Okay, so one of the awesome things about crypto is when Satoshi created Bitcoin, he made a limited amount of coins, and so it's the opposite of the Fed just printing and printing and printing. So there's a limited supply, and so that ensures that Bitcoin is going to hold its value. It's not going to lose value. So it's a really good store of value. Again, a house back in the day was 50,000. Now a house is 2.5 million in that same area. Mm-hmm. So that is showing the inflation of the dollar and the losing of that value. And so because Bitcoin has a limited amount of coins, it won't lose its value.
Okay.
Another thing I want to talk about is that a lot of really big banking institutions are very anti-cryptocurrency and anti-Bitcoin. And I think that should tell you something about how revolutionary it is. I describe it as the democratization of money. So one of the problems that I did not know about until I started researching Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is that the world's population is about 7.5 billion people, and about 6.5 billion people, which is the majority of the world, are what's called unbanked. So these are people that are living in poverty who have no access to financial services. Wow. And so right now, the banking industry either disregards them or they take advantage of them using predatory payday loans or other predatory different predatory banking, because they're like, hey, these people are poor, they have no access to the banking system, let's just abuse them as much as possible. And so with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, you can send transactions very cheaply, for a couple pennies, instead of the 3% interest that a lot of these companies charge. In addition to that, out of the 6.5 billion people who are unbanked right now, the majority of them, some of them have dirt floors that they're living on. They're in extreme poverty, but they all have a smartphone. That is their, main source of everything, entertainment, communication, everything. And so once some of these programmers come in and start programming different apps and other banking apps off of the cryptocurrency networks, that's going to allow those people to have banking. And so big banks are really, really afraid of this. And you can Google the speech that Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, gave when he said that Bitcoin was a scam, crypto is a scam, and he denounced it in public. Meanwhile, in private, he actually had a cryptocurrency trading desk where he was developing his own cryptocurrency. And the same thing happened with the Fed. The Fed made an announcement that, Bitcoin is a scam. People should not invest in Bitcoin. Meanwhile, they were putting major Bitcoin entrepreneurs and other people in jail, in federal prison. There was a gentleman that was arrested by the FBI, which no one talks about. And they were also seizing that Bitcoin, and also they're now trying to create their own federal cryptocurrency. So this is a huge, huge threat to the corrupt mainstream banking system. And so that's another reason I think your listeners would be interested in it.
Yeah, because if everybody goes to crypto, then they can't keep control over us. They keep us in debt. They keep us in these shitty jobs. They pull the money away from us, like when this pandemic hit, and keep us all beholden to them. They're going to come grab our property. That's part of what this CARES Act is a means for in the next year, there's going to be all these bankruptcies of businesses, bankruptcies of homes, and they can just...
There's going to be a large transfer of wealth, Graham, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why more people should convert to crypto. But let me put this out there. Because I have heard somebody say that one of the, I guess, Achilles, you'd call it, of crypto is, now this is definitely, is EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or solar flares, right? So they say that could happen. If that happens, it would wipe out the internet, digital currency, whatever like that. I think it's if that happens, we're all screwed. The internet's, then everything's going to go to money and bartering and whatever. But
I don't think that's a concern, just because of what you mentioned. If the system is wiped out, who's to say if you have your bank money in a traditional bank, like I just mentioned, 80% of money right now is already digital. Mm-hmm. It's not in cash. So, the only people who would be safe are people who are holding gold. So I don't know if that is because banking records could be wiped out as well.
Right. They could wipe out everything. All right. So what would you, now we know.
Sorry, one more thing.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, Graham. I'm ranting, but I'm really passionate about it.
No, I love it. That's why I had you on the show.
Okay. So I just wanted to say one more thing. So I know that your stance on a lot of capitalism, you're very anti-capitalist. I'm actually what is called a conscious capitalist. So I believe in capitalism, but I just think right now we do not have a capitalist system. We have what's called crony capitalism, which is where our capitalist society is kind of in bed with the government.
Kind of?
Kind of, just a little.
You mean our government works for the capitalists, I think is what you meant. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
Maybe. So they're in bed. They're sleeping with each other. So I do actually at my heart believe in a lot of capitalist principles, but I just don't think they're being applied right now. However, one of the most horrific, I think, corruptions of capitalism is something known in the investment system as accredited investing. So accredited investing is it's special investments like hedge funds or other things that only people who have $1 million net worth and over are allowed to invest in. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that this is a complete, corruption of the system, because basically these are special handpicked investments for the ultra rich, and the average person doesn't have access to them. And so one of the awesome things about crypto is that it's some of the cryptocurrencies are creating crowd-funded investments. So you can crowdfund certain investments through cryptocurrency and raise money, and then you can make money off of that as well. So I'll give you an example. Like Snapchat is an example of a corrupt investment. They, I think, were worth a couple $1 billion, and only a select few were allowed to get in on that investment. And so the very, very few made billions and billions of dollars, while the average person like you or me, we didn't have access to those types of investments. And one of the excuses for not allowing the average person to invest in those things is that they say, it's too risky, the average person isn't smart enough, and so you have to have this 1 million net worth or higher to be able to invest. And so with the STOs, which are called securitized token offerings, they've just been approved by the SEC. The average person can invest $10 or $100 or something in these STO offerings that are going to be backed by real estate or other investments. So it allows the average person to be involved in the system and make money too, instead of just the ultra, ultra, ultra wealthy.
Right. That sounds a little more like socialism, where workers own the means of production.
It's a more fair capitalism. I I don't like the system right now. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think capitalism itself is evil. I just think what we have right now, which is a completely bastardized system, I think that we just need to put some guardrails on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it's the root of everything that's evil, racism and everything else. But that's I guess a topic for another day. But so a reason to like crypto is it evens it out, because capitalism,
It evens it out. Yeah.
it's a root cause of racism, of sexism, of all this discrimination and all of this systemic racism, and all of these things are I could tie anything to capitalism, quite honestly. But so what do you, now that the person who's watching this, who's like, okay, I'm interested, where would you send them? What's there some good blogs or websites or videos, or if there's
so for the average person, so when I got involved in cryptocurrency in 2009, I felt that I wasn't smart enough. I said, okay, cryptography, my head's spinning. I don't know anything about programming or algorithms. Like, this is way above my head. But thanks to the internet and the awesome people on the internet, a lot of this information has become more easily digestible. So anyone who wants to learn more about cryptocurrency, I would advise for them to go onto YouTube and check out there's Crypto for Kids. They have Bitcoin for Kids videos. And I'm not trying to demean anyone and say they're an idiot, but sometimes a lot of people in crypto get really heady, they get really jargony,
right?
They start talking about a lot of technical things, and I think that can be really hard for people to understand. So I myself love looking at the Crypto for Kids videos. It just shows how easy it is to understand. And also Coinbase, where I have some of my crypto accounts, they have these videos called Learn to Earn, where you can actually watch their videos and learn about crypto, and then at the end you get some crypto. So they actually pay you for watching those videos.
Yeah, that's great. Like I just, I have a Coinbase account now, and I mean that's where my crypto is until I get this that digital wallet thing. And so that's another thing that you would recommend too, is like maybe having some of it spread out in multiple places where it's not all in one thing that you can lose, or
I would, as a backup. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say like have 10 accounts, but I do have 3 or 4 crypto accounts myself. So I spread it out a little bit. And like I said, it's very important to make sure that you keep your private key in a safe place so that you don't lose it, because it's so secure that you yourself will not be able to get in if you lose it. And the private keys are really hard to memorize. They're like 20 letters, and
right.
They don't make any sense. It's not like a password like that you would use. It's random letters and numbers.
Right. Okay, so that's a good, that's because I started doing that too. I started watching some, just like, I think even the people, like there's a Bitcoin 101 video that I've watched on YouTube, and like you say, Coinbase puts out their own videos, which are very informative. So, all right, Rosie, well, thank you so much for taking time with us today. Where where can people follow you online?
Oh, so before I get into that, I also want to tell people to check out the book Internet of Money.
Okay.
It was one of the books, you can get it on Amazon. It was one of the books that helped me to understand cryptocurrency, and the way that the author writes it is very in layman's terms. So it's a good way to understand it for the average person. I'm on Twitter at Funny Rosie. And I'm on Instagram at Out of the Box Rosie. I have a podcast called Out of the Box Podcast, and you can find that on Stitcher, iTunes, or YouTube.
Yeah, I've been on it. So
yes, you have. You're my first guest, Graham.
Yes, I was guest number 1.
My very first guest, and then you were like guest like 80 or something.
Yeah, I've been on twice. I think I'm the only person that's been on twice, or you've had other multiple guests.
At the time that you were on, I think you were I have had a Supreme Court guy that is trying to reform the Supreme Court. Gabe Roth, Fix the Courts. He's been on, and he was really awesome.
Nice.
About the corruption with the Supreme Court. So it's kind of stuff like you talk about on Political Vigilante. It's not as political leaning as you, but it's just out of the box stuff that, I wish I would have known. It's non-mainstream. No conspiracy theories. Everyone that I have on is an expert. I've had like Nobel Prize nominees and people like that. So I think it's really awesome. And I really want you guys to get into crypto, because it is a democratized form of money, and it's putting money in people's hands and giving you control instead of the federal government and the Fed, which is a very, very corrupt institution.
Yeah, and it's the thing I say on this. I've been saying it on the show since I've been doing it for 3.5 years, which is vote with your dollars. And one of the ways to do that I've talked about is trying to, like, I've tried to get some my money. I'm slowly migrating it into like credit unions, but this is an even better way to pull the money out of the big banks that have this control over us and put it into crypto. It's another way for everybody out there watching the show to empower yourself. And all they respond to is money. Look, the Washington Redskins logo just got taken down because of money, because people pressured FedEx and FedEx said, uh-oh. And look, the NFL needs new young audiences, and millennials are the slowest percentage of people watching the NFL in the history of the NFL. And they're well aware that millennials and Gen Z don't give a shit about football. And they're like, I'm not watching a football league, let alone a team that has a racist mascot. So when I talk about these things, about how much voting with your dollars matters, look, 3 pipelines just got shut down. And I have to believe that a big part of that was the divest movement, especially with the Dakota Access Pipeline. It's a thing I did videos on about pull your money out. I pulled my IRA out of Wells Fargo and I put it into a credit union.
Thank you. Do not support Wells Fargo.
They're awful. They're awful, man. They're awful. I just had to open up a new IRA for my account wanted me, and I did it at my credit union because I just didn't want to I still have some business accounts at Wells Fargo, but I'm slowly migrating them.
No, get them out.
I know. They're awful. The bank is awful. The bank, all the big banks, Chase, Bank of America.
Don't get me started.
They're all awful.
Local credit union and cryptocurrency. That's all you need to know. It's your money and you deserve to keep it. That's the only thing. You have to understand, people slave away. The tax rate is over 30%, and people get taxed. There's hidden taxes, sales tax and other taxes like that disproportionately hurt the poor and middle class. So you're being taxed over 50 or 60%, and that money is definitely not going to basic income or Medicare for all, or things that help everyone. And so I think that you deserve to keep the hard-earned money that you work for. And so cryptocurrency is a way to maintain that money and not lose it to inflation, which is another hidden tax.
Yep. Another hidden tax. Well, Rosie, thank you so much. Check out the Out of the Box Rosie podcast, which is a great podcast, and it's more different points of view, which is why many of you come to this show. And thank you for educating us on crypto. Go to the Internet of Money was the book again, right?
Internet of Money. It's an awesome book. You can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
And don't give up yet, Graham. I still believe we can save capitalism and save democracy and save socialism and save everything. I don't think that any of those things are evil. I just think that we need to reform them. So I'm still very positive, even though it's a very scary environment.
Well, in the same way you were shocked that I didn't know more about crypto, I'm shocked that you're still pushing for capitalism after learning all this about crypto, Rosie.
I think we can save it. I still think we can save it.
Socialism's not evil. It's just workers only means of production and democratic socialism.
Socialism is evil, but I'm talking about people who think it's evil on the right. I don't think socialism is evil, and I don't think capitalism is evil. I think that our institutions are far off from the ideals that they were built upon, and so I think that we can save them. There just needs to be a lot of reform. Okay, well, I'll give you some books to read. Thank you, Rosie, for taking your time today and coming on the show. So check out her podcast and get knowledgeable about crypto, everybody. All right. Thanks, Graham. Bye. Bye. Have a great day. Hey, everybody. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification button and the subscribe button, even if you've done it before, because they're unsubscribing, many of you, every day. Watch the ads all the way through. If you click skip ad, I don't get paid. Also, support us at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Rockfin.com is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. All my videos are on Rockfin ad-free. Thanks for watching.